Well, welcome to Trading Group 1. Today is the 3rd of May, 2021. So welcome everyone. Looks like people are still joining us. So sorry for the kind of slow start, but we do have a few things going on this week. I guess I can share my screen real quick. Oh yeah, Rich, I'm doing fine. I'll let you know a little update on Expert Signal too. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen now. Let's see. Participants. All right, so Tim Pearson is going to be presenting the boxcar trade on Wednesday. A little bit unusual time, but normally we do it. Now these are Mountain time, so that would be 1 p.m. Eastern or 10 a.m. Pacific. Tim's taking over the boxcar from Amy because Amy's going to be starting the time zone trade. I think she's doing a roundtable on the what's it, the 18th. It's next week, I think maybe it's soon, but she's going to be doing that before the end of the month. So she didn't want to have two intraday or weekly trade alert services going at the same time. So she was stopping the boxcar, but Tim's been trading the boxcar a long time, been teaching it in the beginner trading group, so it was a natural for him to just pick up the reins and go with it. So Tim's going to do a presentation. I think Dan Harvey's going to be there on Wednesday. Tim will show how he trades it. I think he's going to compare the way he trades versus how Amy trades too. And Tim's not here yet, so he can't confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that's what he's going to be doing. And then we'll see what the differences are. I don't think they're big differences. Again, Dan Harvey, the inventor of the trade, is going to be on with Tim. So another thing with the boxcar is Gary's working on an updated tool. Now, if you remember with the G tool that he came up with a long time ago, was a helper for the road trip trade. So you wouldn't have to spend a lot of time going through different possible trades when you're trying to find one for entry. Gary had a great report. He still has it. There's still a couple subscribers to it. He pumps out analysis every morning of what great risk reversals are, great road trip trade entries are, and he racks and stacks them and shows you which ones are better and why. And it's a pretty good tool. But he's developing one for the boxcar, so I think that'll be fairly popular as well. I don't think it's going to be ready by the time Tim takes over, but probably the next few weeks. And again, Gary's doesn't look like he's here yet to give us an update, but that's coming pretty soon. So anyone who likes the boxcar, I'm sure that'll be a really interesting report. And then Marco from Option Slam is going to be doing a presentation on Thursday at the normal time. That's 11 a.m. Eastern. He's going to be talking about his double eagle trade. Now, Marco was on a couple of years ago, I think 2018 or 19. I have to go look. But his double eagle, I guess he's starting up a new course of it, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I think it's a kind of like a trade alert. I think he sends out trades, but we'll have to see exactly what he talks about. Marco is a co-founder and owner of Option Slam, a former market maker, a really nice guy, and his double eagles always had good performance, so it'll be good to see that. And let's see, Tim's not here yet. I don't know if Gary's coming either. Huh. Well, let's see. I guess I can give you some news on Expert Signal. So originally Daniel Lyons, if you don't know who he is, he's a friend of mine I've known since about 2003. We met via the NeuroShell Trader forums. We both had that software, and Daniel's a professor. He's of applied mathematics and also cosmology, like space physics. Well, he has really interesting technology he was working on at the time, and I became involved with Daniel's project, and it's kind of now at the point we had talked about doing a trade alert service years and years ago, but it was never at the point with the signal generator that we could kind of automate things, and um, it just kind of has been going sideways for a long time. But he sent me a message yesterday or the day before, I think it was last night. Um, so the software that he built, Expert Charts, originally was trading, I think it was the ES futures contract. But Daniel, he's from Brisbane area, a little bit north of there, and the market hours for trading anything in the US is horrible. I think markets open at something like midnight and close at 7 or something in the morning. And he would get really frustrated because the internet provider would just, unannounced maintenance on their network at 3 or 4 in the morning. Well, most people are sleeping, but Daniel's trying to trade, so it was driving him crazy. So he later switched to Forex, and I think he can trade in the afternoon his time for the London session, which is pretty convenient. So he's had the software for a long time, and then he kind of evolved it into another version called NetPips for FX. And I had been using that for a long time, but it didn't have a signal generator. So he was trying to put a signal generator together for NetPips, and he was having a lot of problems, and NetPips was crashing a lot. Daniel's very, very sensitive about his intellectual property. So he uses a third-party tool from I think it's in the UK, Microcosm, I think is the company. But they'll protect the software with special DLLs, and he has to license it and let people run it. It tells them reports of when it's run and stuff. But that software that was protecting his DLL was also causing NetPips to crash quite frequently. It would go 10, 20 minutes or less, sometimes 2 or 3 crashed. I had some macros running that would restart it, but it was crashing constantly during the day. And he tracked it down to it was the microcosm code that's causing the crash, because it would run, steady on his machine for hours and hours and hours with no problem. So a few weeks ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, Daniel, he got stuck in Australia. He again, with the internet, he got really frustrated with it, and he emigrated to Thailand, and they have better internet there. But he has some medical things. He has doctors in Australia that he goes to see. So March of last year, he went for a 5-day trip for a little procedure, and while he was in Australia for this procedure, Thailand closed the borders, and he's been stuck living at his sister's house since March of last year. He'll get his second shot, I think, in July, and then 2 weeks after he can go back. But in the meantime, he's still stuck. But he doesn't have all of his code with him, but he did bring a portable hard drive with some of it. And he happened to find an old version of Expert Charts that did have a signal generator. So he's been working on updating that to the latest compiler, and he got it in my hands a week or 2 ago, and it looks pretty good. But he said there's still a couple little bugs in it, and last night he said he's made some tweaks to it. It's generating more pips, and the bugs are fixed. And he's also going to be coming out with a non-charting version of the signal generator. So it does for Forex pairs, the pound, the euro, the Aussie dollar, and the Swiss franc, and it'll just sit there cranking out trades. So he said he should have that to me by Friday, and I'll show everyone in the Expert Signal weekly review the chart that he sent. It's buried in my email. I haven't gotten around to for this meeting yet. But anyway, that's coming this Friday, I think he said. Just a few minor things to tweak, but it sounds like there shouldn't be any obstacles to him getting that to me. So that's an update for Expert Signal. We'll see how the results go, but from the picture he sent me, it looked pretty good. Now let's see, and I see Mark's here. Hey, morning, Mark. It's been a while. Mark Ansel. Make sure I'm talking to the right Mark. Hey, Mark, are you able to talk? Maybe not. I guess he stepped away from his computer or can't. Oh, here's
Hey,
something.
hey, Tom.
Hey, Mark, morning. How are you doing?
Doing fine, thank you.
How's the COVID recovery going?
Well, I've been cleared, um, and I heard you talking about the inoculations a moment ago. I got my first one and go back for my second one in a week,
Mm,
and then
mm-hmm.
all that'll be behind me at last. So
Oof,
I'll be
thankfully.
yeah, I'll be cleared to travel. But talking about closed borders, I still can't go to where I'm trying to get to, which is Russia,
Yeah,
Moscow specifically. Um, so it's kind of an empty victory, so to speak.
yeah. Well, at least it's one hurdle that you're past anyway.
Well, yeah, and I'm happy about it. I wouldn't wish COVID on anyone. um, it's a long, miserable process to to get rid of the damn thing. Um, and I'm glad it's behind me. It doesn't give you much of a life. I've spent probably 99% of the last year in my apartment.
Yeah,
Only able to go to two places. I was only cleared to go to two places, the supermarket and the pharmacy. Well, my supermarket has a pharmacy, so for me it was basically one place. Sometimes I would literally go to Walgreens just to have an alternative place to go
right.
beside Meyer, you know. But um, again, that's behind me now. I got the official clearance from COVID back on April. I think it was the 24th. It was the day I got my first inoculation. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they. I don't know if I told you this before, but the Pfizer vaccine is manufactured here in Kalamazoo.
Oh, really?
If you remember the old Upjohn plant, Pfizer bought Pharmacia, and Pharmacia had bought Upjohn a few years earlier. So it's manufactured in the old Upjohn plant out on Portage Road by the airport. And it was kind of a frustration in the sense that, that's the largest manufacturing plant that Pfizer has in North America. It's a humongous campus. And so they're manufacturing this stuff here, but we couldn't get it.
That's like in Belgium where Pfizer was manufacturing it for Europe, and it was 40 kilometers from where we were, but they were just exporting it all. Nobody could get it. So,
Well, in the case of Michigan, it was some issue with the state, and the state would not provide the necessary authorization for use of the vaccine here within the state. So they were manufacturing the Pfizer vaccine here and shipping all of it to other locations. Well, we finally have gotten beyond that because I got the Pfizer vaccine
and me too.
week before last, and like I said, I go for the second dose next week. They do it 3 weeks apart. At least that's how they're doing it here. Um,
Yeah,
and
Colorado too.
yeah, and it was just so frustrating to think, the plant is literally 3 miles from where I live, and I couldn't get it. I have stories of Kalamazoo residents who had to go to South Haven to get vaccinated. I know somebody who went to Battle Creek to get vaccinated, and somebody who got vaccinated in South Bend only because his wife was from Indiana and some damn thing that allowed him to go across the state line to get a vaccination. And it's just crazy when you think that they manufacture the stuff right here, but the local residents until 2 weeks ago had no access to it.
Yeah, and in Belgium they're having such problems with it. I know Gabby's mom's friend lives like 4 houses away from where Gabby grew up. He's 86, had his first shot a couple of weeks ago, but he has to wait till July for his second one.
Oh my gosh.
Yep,
The thing about COVID, everybody has COVID stories,
right.
and there are similarities, of course, like you're just talking about Belgium, not unlike the situation here in Kalamazoo, but it's kind of sad in a way that we have this pandemic, and yet and there are solutions available, and yet you can't get the solutions to the people who need them the most.
Yep.
I mean, I don't mean to complain about myself. I had the affliction, and I couldn't get vaccinated with a vaccine that was manufactured 3 miles away. What am
Was
I supposed to do? Die? I mean, I'm going to die because the state is not going to allow Michigan residents to use this vaccine for some reason. Again, we're beyond that, but at the time, it was just so frustrating.
was there any consideration that you couldn't get it because you had the COVID virus?
Actually, no. And I kind of worried about that. And, they do a lengthy questionnaire before you can even get the vaccine, or at least, again, this is the Michigan process. It may vary in other places. But there was a lengthy questionnaire. And, one of the questions was, have you been diagnosed? And if so, then you have to provide a lengthy discussion of that and a get your note from your doctor, just like in middle school.
Yeah, your mother may I. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So there were hoops to jump through. But I was impressed with how Kalamazoo County had it organized. I did mine through the county health department. I had registered to do it at Walgreens, but then there was some issue that Walgreens in Michigan was not authorized to vaccinate. And so everyone who had registered with Walgreens had to go somewhere else, which was unfortunate for me. Walgreens is right over the hill from where I live, and the county health department is out on the edge of town. I don't drive, so it was an issue to get out there. I mean, I use
Right.
Uber, but it wasn't like I can just walk across the hill. So anyway, I went out to the fairgrounds, which is where the county health department had set up the whole vaccination process, and I was quite impressed with how well organized it was. At least, the county got that right. I was kind of proud of my own county. Hey, they got this right. The state may have screwed this up horribly, but the county got it right. So that was a small, bright victory, I thought. But bottom line is, I'm well. Again, after a week from tomorrow. After a week from tomorrow, I will be cleared to travel overseas, specifically to Russia. But until they open that border, I still can't get in.
So even if you're fully vaccinated, they won't let you go?
No.
Wow.
And it's unfortunate because Ksenia and I had planned on visiting Greece first week of May, but she cannot leave the country because she has not yet been vaccinated. Russia has some rule that requires Russian citizens to be vaccinated before they can leave. And I guess the reason is so they can come back in.
Right. Makes sense.
As I understand it anyway, we do have the issue about things getting lost in translation sometimes, but that's my understanding of how it works in Russia.
Right. I say, Fayez says in Montreal, he has the same problem they do in Belgium. He's got to wait multiple months before he gets his second one.
Oh, what
Um,
a
I did
shame.
I did see an article that in the US they want you to get it within 42 days, and like in Victoria, Australia, I saw something online. They're okay with 85 days, but it varies by country to country. But
I
that seems to be kind of the edge there, the 3-4 month range. It's kind of long.
Yeah, I don't know what the reason is for that, but I have to admit, I was surprised that my second vaccination could occur within 3 weeks of the first. I was expecting them to tell me 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. And when they scheduled me 3 weeks beyond my first vaccine, I thought, that surprised me. I was impressed and kind of pleased with that. Of course, everybody would like to have the Johnson and Johnson vaccine that
The one one and
it's,
one and
it's
done.
one and done, but they had their own issues in
Tom,
Yep.
So
Yes.
Some countries are pursuing a strategy that's called first dose first. Great Britain is doing that. Some other countries where they're concentrating on getting one dose into as many people as possible and delaying the second dose. The United States is sticking to the schedule of second dose when it's due according to the protocol,
Right.
which is 3 weeks for the Pfizer and 4 weeks for the Moderna. So that's why you're seeing that discrepancy.
I
I,
think part of the Belgians' problem is they didn't order enough. So they've
oh,
got other
wow.
problems, but
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
right
shame.
now, in the world, Israel is way ahead of everybody else. The United States is behind them, and then Great Britain, and after that, it trails off rather dramatically in percentage of population inoculated.
right.
I can only speak for Pfizer again because Pfizer is here in Kalamazoo, but they're pumping that stuff out. They don't seem to be having issues in distribution. They're filling their orders, they're getting it out. The trucks are rolling out of here around the clock. It's just amazing to watch those trucks go through that plant. The MDs come in, they load it up, and they're back on the road instantly.
Yeah, in the United
It's
States,
impressive.
we've reached the point where the problem is no longer supply, it's demand.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Most other countries are not in that situation, but yeah, we've reached the point where in the last week or two, states have been turning down some of the doses because they haven't been able to distribute them.
There's a lot of unfilled appointments.
A lot of people are not going for their second appointment. In some places, it's as much as 10% of the people are not coming back for their second dose. And a lot of people are just not, you know, interested in getting a vaccine at all.
Yep.
Well, there's a lot of politics surrounding it, which is unfortunate, but
Yeah. Well,
what
there's
are
a
you going
lot
to
of
do?
yeah, there's a lot of stupidity. If you look at what's happening in India, India at one point thought that they had achieved herd immunity because so much of the population was infected with the virus last year. And now they're finding out that that's not the case, that people are getting reinfected, especially with the new variants. And it appears that immunity from acquiring the virus is not nearly as robust as immunity acquired from
A
the
vaccine.
vaccination.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, with that, I guess that kind of leads into the night owl, since I know, Mark, you've been running the night owl, but you had this COVID stuff kind of, hitting you over the head.
Yeah, well, it was the only thing I could do, basically. You
So
know?
we haven't had an update, so I'm curious how has it been doing, and do you have any updates for us with the night owl?
Well, I can say that Night Owl, the last, the last losing day, the last incorrect call by Night Owl was on April 5th. And since then, we've had 20 odd calls. I think it's 22 calls, and they've all been on the right side. Today, we wanted to short um, euro at 85, and euro began the session down below 40. I see from looking at the chart, it went up to 86.5 and now has come down. So I got to keep my eye on that to pull it if we get to target B.
Are you doing the
So
futures? You're
yes,
doing, yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yes. Night Owl only trades futures, and
That's right.
that's because Night Owl has to have a settlement price, and to have a settlement price, you have to have a close.
Now, here's your
Um,
10-minute chart for the euro.
I don't use 10-minute chart. I use 20-minute to make that determination. But be that as it may, uh, Night Owl, it looks like Night Owl correctly called where euro would turn. Knock on wood, because we haven't gotten to target B yet. But that comes from the power of the market profile that Night Owl uses. And I think I've mentioned this before, that we use the market profile, but in a very different way than the original purpose for which it was developed. But we have found a way with the market profile to use those points of control, the POCs, to identify where a market most likely is to stop and turn. So naturally, it makes a perfect use of a stop in Night Owl. That's what we use to determine where to place the stops. And then it simply becomes a matter of, well, how much risk do you want to take? And I provide the subscribers with the price arrays so they can make their own decision as to, well, this is where the stop is, and these are the prices, these are the square of 9 prices in front of the stop. How much risk are you willing to take? Because of course the more risk they're willing to take, the more likely they are to get filled. After all, market doesn't always go right to the stop and then turn around. So it will turn in front. And for most of those trades, Tom, we're able to use the square of 9 prices that are either 2 or 3 prices in front of the stop, thereby considerably lowering the risk per trade. For example, 2 SONs, 2 square of 9 prices in front of a euro stop, typically is around 10 ticks. And a target B exit is typically around 28 ticks. So effectively, you've got greater than a 2-to-1 reward to risk ratio working for you. So when you can put together a track of 20 plus correct calls, then you're doing extremely well. And I know the complaint I'm going to hear, because this is by far the complaint I have heard about Night Owl most of all at Aramir. And that complaint is, yes, but you have to take the trades in the nighttime. And unfortunately, that's the case because of the timing that the settlement occurs, which is, well, in the case of the euro, 3 p.m. And it continues trading till 5, but the settlement is as of 3 p.m. Eastern time. And so consequently, the great bulk of the trades that come off of that settlement price fill during the European period, which begins, well, the London Open is at 4 a.m. Eastern time. And that's just the fact of life we have to deal with. It's a great model for trading in Europe because, we're talking about trades that occur mostly during European daytime hours. And for Night Owl, that's just a fact of life that we deal with. To offer a solution as best as I can for North American traders, they can trade Night Owl at Stryker Securities, and Stryker now has an affiliation with a broker in, I think it's in the Czech Republic. I think he's in the Czech Republic, where he will manage
Auto trade it.
Yeah, auto trade it and manage the trades during the North American nighttime.
Right.
So that is available for, and actually has been available for, I don't know, 6 months, I guess, give or take, for Night Owl subscribers.
Yeah, this is a tool that I saw a chart like this on some other website, but I wanted it on my site where I could change my time zone and everything. So I built this little Forex market hour thing. You go to tools and then Forex market hours to get there. But for Eastern time, yeah, the London session's wrapping up. It's 4:30 in the afternoon there, but yeah, you can see it starts pretty early, 3 a.m. Eastern.
In that green zone, that's where the great bulk of our trades occur.
Right.
It's also true of crude oil, because again, crude oil settlement is as of 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, so only a half-hour difference. And so it's the same issue. And there is nothing I can do about that, because Night Owl has to have that settlement. I've had some subscribers ask if I would adapt Night Owl to Forex. Well, Forex doesn't close, there's no settlement. And it's just a fact of life with Night Owl that it has to have a settlement price and a settlement time. And it bases what it does on those two facts.
Hey, Mark, what do you think it is about that settlement time that makes it so important? Because number one, it seems arbitrary for a market that basically trades 24 hours. And, at that hour, there's, other than the US, there's nothing else going on. You would think that like a European settlement time would be more important.
A European settlement time would be fantastic, but the euro currency contract and the crude oil contract are assets of Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Well, uh, in the case of crude oil, it's originally from New York Mercantile Exchange, which is now part of CME. Um, and consequently, they're going to settle their own assets basically whenever they want to, and they've used the traditional times that have existed for the settlements of those two markets since I began trading commodities in 1990, whatever, 1997, I guess.
Yeah,
And
there were
they've
the
always
original
been,
pit hours.
exactly. They have stuck with those original pit hours to this day, 2:30 for the crude oil and 3 o'clock for the euro, which, back then was the Deutsche Mark. And it never changed. Theoretically, I could adapt the Brent to night owl. I haven't gone down that path. It's simply a matter of time, Andrew. Night owl is mostly a manual determination. I have hired programmers 3 different times to go down this path. All 3 times it has failed just because of the complexity. And manually, it takes me about 5 to 6 hours per day per market. I don't have the time to do a third market. And so, Brent is sitting there and it offers a better time and it offers a better settlement and so on. I just don't have the time. And I'm 67 years old. I don't really want my retirement years to be spent cranking out numbers all day long for the rest of my life. That's not what living is all about for me. I'm trying to ease away from it instead of add even more stuff to my plate.
Retirement's overrated.
Well,
Yeah.
I must say, um, I have said for many years I would never retire, and I don't regard myself as retired, unless I'm filling out some form and it benefits me somehow to claim I'm retired. But I like doing what I do, but I like being able to set my own hours and set my own schedule and so on. And I don't want to become a slave to night owl, and that's why the original night owl was 4 markets, because it also included S&P and soy meal. And I've scaled it back to the 2 that I use, and I'm not really too open to the concept of adding a third market. Now, having said that, one of the reasons I'm going to Russia when I could ever get there is my fiance there is affiliated with a marketing company, and they can put me in touch with programmers. And we've tried to do this over Zoom, and it just doesn't work well. It's too complex, especially when you've got a language barrier. I mean, I speak enough Russian to be dangerous, and they can be proficient in English. But, when you're talking about proprietary intellectual property, they don't know the terms. And just to get beyond that is a challenge. And so we've decided the best thing is just for me to, it's just like I did with Jim, just to be shoulder to shoulder and work through the programming issues. And that's what I did with Jim Riggio, formerly of Capital Discussions. And the portions of the portions of Night Owl that are automated were automated by Jim. If I could interest him in doing more, I would, but he's got issues that he has to deal with in his life. So unfortunately, he's not available. And I've not found anyone else who has the time and the intellectual capacity to grasp what it is that Night Owl is doing.
It's pretty darn complex, yeah.
It is complex, Tom. And, you know, you and I talked about doing the re-retracement analysis and the column P analysis. Those are two of the 13 Night Owl components. Those are the two most time consuming. And if we could get those two components automated, even though they're only about 20% of the model, that would
Takes
free
like
up my
80% of your time.
time by about 80%. Exactly.
And Pareto, yeah.
And I don't need to have the rest of it automated. I don't need a model that all I do is turn on my computer and it does everything. That doesn't have any special appeal to me. But God, I would love to have the column P analysis and the re-retracement analysis automated, even if it were just something like Excel. And Jim believed that it could be done in Excel. And what he did do with the Night Owl has proprietary calculations for volatility. He wrote that in Excel. I was skeptical when he began. He wrote it in Excel and it works like a charm. Use it every day ever since he wrote it over 3 years ago. Works like a charm. And so I'm not a programmer. I mean, I know Fortran from the 70s, and that's as far as I went with programming. So I'm so out of date on programming. I shouldn't pretend to know anything more than that. So I'm not going to say, oh, well, it needs to be in C# or it needs to be this or that. I don't have the knowledge to make that kind of decision. Jim believed that Excel was best for the volatility analysis, and it works like a charm. I'm perfectly happy with it. And it was his belief that the other two, the column P and the re-retracement analyses, could be done with Excel as well. But again, he incurred issues in his life down there that were overwhelming, and so he had to abandon the project. And I've not found anyone since who's willing to tackle it because it
Hey,
is
Mark,
complex.
there's a question. Have you ever compared the results that you get versus what Stryker's doing for you?
Well, yes, and there was a reason for that. At the time you were with Stryker, Tim, they did not have 24-hour coverage available. And that was a major issue. And William and I went around and around and around about this. William Galwith, the principal at Stryker, because as Tom's green bar chart was showing a moment ago, the great bulk of the Night Owl trades occur during that London period. There you go. And at that time, Stryker did not have an affiliation with any European broker. And so literally they were leaving, if a Night Owl trade elected, let's say at 8 or 9 p.m. Eastern time, well, Stryker was still providing coverage. And they would only provide coverage until around that time. And it was never a specific time, but it was typically around 9 p.m. that the Stryker broker, usually Dan Neenan or Chris Dickerson, would basically sign off for the night. And then they wouldn't sign in again until the next morning. And there was that period of time, mostly during the European period, when most of the Night Owl trades were occurring, when the fills would happen. And there literally was nobody minding the store, so
I
to
think
speak,
about
to
this
take the
time
trains.
is when Stryker was not there when the markets were really active.
That was the problem. And that was a problem for more than a year. And William and I would go around and around about how to provide that coverage, because he was unwilling. William was of the opinion that the brokers that he would hire had to have significant trading execution experience. Well, I get that, but he'll say, well, those brokers have kind of gone on out to pasture or gone elsewhere over the years, because nowadays you have the interactive brokers of the world where everything is automated, and they're just, in William's opinion, there were not qualified people for him to bring into Stryker, pay them a salary, because Stryker brokers are salaried, they're not commissioned, and he didn't feel it was worth his while to pay that salary for somebody to sit at night monitoring one model. Eventually, we reached the joint arrangement where we're at now, where he has the affiliation with the broker in, I'm going to just say Europe. I think he's in Czech Republic. I'm not sure of that enough to say that.
Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, he's in Europe, and his daytime much more closely matches what Night Owl, or when Night Owl is trading.
So since they've gotten that in place, have you compared the results?
I don't have anyone at Stryker right now.
Oh, okay, so can't really compare it.
There's nothing to compare. Exactly. The last person who was at Stryker left. He left complaint. I'm not sure, he may be in this room. Let me see, because he left complaining. No, he's not. He left complaining that Stryker was assessing him inordinate fees. He was not happy with the commission. Well, you know, if you're going to have a live person trading your account, you're going to pay $20 a turn. That's just the way it is. But he complained that there was a monthly account fee he had to pay, and an inactivity fee if he didn't take the trades, and so on. And I took that up with William, and basically William's answer was that wasn't even true. I don't know where the guy came from with respect to the fees that he was claiming, Tom. And I know he wrote to you about it because it was from you I learned he had this complaint. And I took the matter up with William, and William swears that Stryker does not charge the fees that guy was claiming that he got charged. So, and he just abruptly left Stryker and left Night Owl. I mean, he's a subscriber. He bought it for a year, but and whether he's still taking the trades on his own, I have no idea. But anyway, to get back to Tim's question, the solution for that issue is in place, but there's nobody
trading it, so there's no track record to see how it's doing. Yeah,
exactly. There's no one taking advantage of it at present.
So in theory, it should mirror it fairly closely.
Yeah, because the trades are there. You know, I put out my flash as soon as a target price elects. This morning it was at, I think, 331 on the crude oil trade that we took the exit. And Stryker gets those, but they have no reason to execute it because they don't have any clients presently trading it. Exactly. Yep. Exactly. That's the issue. So Tim, if you're interested in returning, they've solved that problem.
And then I guess Bill asked, were there logged results of the past Night Owl trades? I guess you're not actually making specific trade recommendations. You're putting out an array, and the subscribers kind of make their own trades, right?
That's the general idea. And I do make my own recommendation, the at line as we called it. But I think it's safe for me to say that for every Night Owl trader, they each have their own way of doing it because the arrays are so flexible. And I would greatly prefer that each trader decide for himself how much risk he's willing to take. Because again, I recognize that if I put my at line 2 lines in front of the recommended stop, that there's not a lot of risk there. You're talking about 10 to 15 ticks on the euro at $12 at $12.50 a tick. You're talking about a couple $100 maybe per contract. Definitely not a lot of risk, but a lot of those don't execute because market may turn around four SON prices, 4 square of 9 prices in front of the stop. So it's really a matter of how much risk is each trader willing to take.
I guess Bill had a suggestion. If you just do like the at-line prices, have you done any studies to show what the returns would have been or the results, the trade performance, if you'd done that?
Well, I can say that what you're looking for, I had in numeric format, and that was prior to the use of the POCs for stops. Using POCs for stops is something that I've developed since bringing Night Owl to Aramir back in 2018. So that's a relatively recent concept. And no, I have not compiled that history. It's, again, a matter of time. I don't have the time to devote to something like that.
No,
Now,
I think
I
I have
do have,
access to it. I could probably go through it if you just tell me
well,
what dates to start with.
you and I started down that path, Tom, back, I don't remember when, like maybe it was in
Yeah,
February
a couple
or
months
so.
ago, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. And I mean, it's there going forward. It's there going backwards. It probably would take a while. And, you know, whether it's worthwhile,
Oh,
it's it's not worthwhile to me, but you know, if it has meaning to subscribers or especially for prospects, okay, I guess I get it. To, you know, the way I think about something like that is, well, those trades were in the past. They're not going to happen again.
well, it gives people a rough idea what they can expect, assuming it's going to have similar performance in the future as what it had before.
Let me ask you this, Bill, since you're online, you have your own way of entering though, right? As I understand from what you've told me, you wait until market goes in the Night Owl direction before you take your entry. Isn't that correct? Bill Lang, I'm asking that specifically of you. I guess, you know, maybe you're not able to reply. But anyway, that's the more typical Night Owl trader is they get the array and they make the decision for themselves as to, well, do they want to enter on a limit? Do they want to wait till market goes in the Night Owl direction before taking an entry? And I don't address that question specifically because if you're going to take your entry on a stop, you may be entering, let's say, a couple of lines in front of the at line, you know, to let market prove itself, because you got to allow some time for market to prove itself. And the farther away you are from the at line, the more proof you've got, but then the farther away the stop is. So you've got that trade-off. And again, I keep saying this, I prefer that my subscribers decide for themselves how much risk are they willing to take.
Well, I'll see if I have some time. I'll try and run through it and kind of get a rough idea how the performance is, so we have something to talk about.
I see Bill put an answer. He takes the at line. Do you take the at line on a limit, Bill, or only after market has retraced and then turns around and goes in the Night Owl direction? Do you take the at line on a stop? On a limit? Okay. And also, are you fading your stops? Because I can't emphasize that enough. That I know Night Owl's not the only model out there that's using POCs for stops. And consequently, you've got front running of stops and so on. And you've got to fade those stops.
No,
And
he fades. Yeah.
I suggest to anytime I'm asked this question, I think I mentioned this long ago in the videos, to use the lines behind the stop, you know, at an absolute minimum, put a 3-tick fade on the stop line. But I use the line behind the stop line. I mean, I put more risk on my trade, but I get stopped out far fewer times for that reason, because there are so many traders now who use market profile. Market profile was developed in 1988, but it only has come to the forefront in the last few years as new charting systems are offering it in their tools, and traders are beginning to understand the value of this indicator. How strong is its predictive ability to identify where a market's going to turn around. And so consequently, to avoid the stop outs from all those traders who are piling on contracts there at the stop price or on the stop line, I'm fading mine by more than a line. And we had that today. I think it was in crude oil. We had that today, that crude oil went down to 62.82, which was behind the Night Owl stop line, but in front of the line that was behind that stop line. And I put my own stops
Is this the one for today? No, that's, oh yeah, maybe.
Planning note, today's May 3rd, so if it's May 2nd, that's today. Okay, and you can see up above where it says use an unfaded stop loss line 3 lines behind the at. Okay, so you can see the
Right
at.
here.
There's 3 lines behind it, 6182.
So this one right here. So you're widening it, you're making the stop bigger so you don't get stopped out as much.
My stop is, I'm putting my fade on the line that's behind the one you've highlighted, Tom. So you see below 6172, and then put a fade on that. So your stop may be 15 cents behind the stop line. You know,
Right,
that's an extra $150 of risk, but that line almost never gets hit unless Night Owl's just playing on the wrong side of the market.
right.
And I mean, that happens. Night Owl does not have a 100% record for calling direction. It's an 83% record for calling direction. So 1 out of 6 times historically, it's on the wrong side of the market. So you have to be willing to take that extra, I said 150 in this case, 15 cents or so behind that stop line. You have to be willing to take that and recognize that, well, it's still going to get hit 1 out of every 6 times.
Yep. Well, very good. Well, like I said, I'll try and get some time to run through some to get some numbers just so we have some talking points. But um, sounds like the results are going to be pretty good.
Well, I can't always say that it's going to have 20 correct calls on the direction, 20 consecutive correct calls, but that's about where we're at right now. Like I said, the last incorrect call was on April 5th. You know, I mean, that it's kind of an extraordinary thing right now. We're getting to that point where Night Owl hasn't done this too often. And I really thought today was going to be the day that it would end because the euro, but I deliberately, you can bring up the euro post I made last night and you'll see that I put that at line way the heck back there. And it's because I didn't want my at line to be further than 3 lines in front of the stop. And the closest POC to use as a stop was way the heck up from where we closed on Friday. Well, look what euro did. Can you put a euro chart up, Tom? I mean, for the futures.
Yeah, the euro and the pound had really big moves today.
It had big up moves and it crashed right into that stop line and now has bounced down. In fact, we're getting close to target B. I'm going to have to put Bill, if you're short on the euro right now, take your exit. I'll put a flash out in just a moment because this is where we were going to take our exit, was in this 2070 area.
All right.
And you know, it did what we expected it would do, and that's all I can ask of Night Owl. You know, it tells me where to put the stop. I got to figure out where I want to enter, and then I go for my target B, and I'm happy as a clam that I get that 80% of the time. And I don't care. I don't care if it's a day when market euro goes 100 ticks like it did on Friday. You know, euro had that huge down move on Friday, and Night Owl's exit was at target B, which was, you know, whatever it was, 20 ticks, I guess, give or take. I'm perfectly fine with that because it just happens all the time. It's almost like a machine. I shouldn't say all the time. It happens most of the time, 5/6 of the time, and you just don't find that in daily systems. I mean, sure, you can take an options trade and have 80% success on your options trade, but you know, you're maybe in it for a couple of weeks. Night Owl does this day in and day out. Okay, that's
very
all
good.
I've
I
got.
know you got to run and set out a message, and Dave Thomas wants to give us a quick update. So
Okay.
Glad you're feeling better, Mark, and hope you can get where you want to go. And yeah, I'll try and get some numbers, some data for
Okay,
the at lines and everything.
great. All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Mark. All right, Dave. I guess you had an update for us.
Hey, Tom, can you hear me?
I can.
Hey, yeah, just want to kind of check in. I know, didn't know if there's going to be any little bit of time at the end here. Just thought I'd give just a real quickie update here.
Sure.
Let's see, I can share my screen if you want.
Yeah, let me stop sharing mine. You should be able to share now.
Let's see. In theory, yes. I just got to find the little
I know I enabled sharing, so
Yeah, it's just a matter of getting to the right screen here to,
yeah.
there we go. Let's see. Okay. So can you see my O&E?
I do. Yep.
Okay, so this is just kind of going back. This is kind of like the first, we had 2 trades so far with the new Flex 3.0. The first trade basically was only, it went 2 days, the market went against us, and we basically just got out for just about break even. So that was like from the 20th to the 22nd. So basically it was just a quick 2-day, but then we immediately got into this next trade, which was the first, the follow-on trade from that. And this one we put on Friday, the 23rd, and we took it off this day last Wednesday, the 28th for, it was about, I think after things, it was about 5.2% or so. So we made, some good money on this one. So the first venue into the new Flex 3.0 was a nice winning trade. So I just wanted to let people know that. And we've got a trade on right now that's doing well, is doing good, and we put that on last week. So we're basically just utilizing the new rules and strategies from Flex 3.0. And I guess the interesting part of that is that I've also did some work over the weekend of incorporating some of the, I would say, some of the basic concepts of a lot of things that I've done and changes that I've done recently, and put those into the Dream Lifter.
Okay.
And so it may be, I'm not quite finished on that, but I'm trying to finish that up for my meeting with the folks tomorrow. But
Right.
it could be that they're, I don't know if we'll call it Dreamlifter 2.0 or something, but there could be some significant changes, or just we may just roll into some just new changes and still call it the good old Dreamlifter. But there could be some significant changes to that based upon the things that we've learned dynamically as the market has gone through since we've put it on. And so, just like with anything else, we learn along the way. We adapt to the market with what's happening, and we try to be able to improve upon what we have. So the initial back testing that I did, which was incorporating some of the newer concepts into Dreamlifter, and I basically traded it all the way back through when we started, which was basically the end of June of last year. And it was a significant, almost 7-fold increase in profits.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah, it was significant. So, and it was just simply just going in and doing, recognizing what the market has been doing versus, the 9 years of back testing, that was within those environments, but, environments do change. So the ability to be able to take some of that within the flex environment, of which is basically, if you want to think about it, just taking some, dynamically looking at what's happening with the market and quickly trying to adapt strategies to take advantage. And we don't know if it's going to be good, 6 months from now. We just don't know that.
Right.
But the thing is the trick is to be able to, one of the things that I always search for was to be able to have the ability to, have someone that was looking at this thing constantly, to be able to not just say, just stick with an old system and then just, do it until it doesn't work. And then basically, well, let's try a new system. Here, I'm trying to somewhat do that, but just do it in a much, much more compressed time frame. So in essence, trying to react to what different market conditions there are. So
Right.
so anyway, so that's what we're doing. That's kind of the quickie update. And so far, the Flex 3.0 is doing very well. Like I said, it's we made, if you take the 2 trades in combination, made it just a little bit under 5% for the first trade, which was basically which was a nice way to start off.
Well, great. Do you think the Dreamlifter is going to trade or change its frequency at all?
Frequency meaning?
Like the number of
DTE?
trades or no, like how often you put trades on, because I know there aren't any Dreamlifter trades on right now, right?
Correct, correct. Yeah, one of the big things, so I guess, yeah, the frequency of trades would be, would definitely be more, okay? But no more than what we do with, well, with the flex trade, we don't really do any more than one a day. But what I say with the Dreamlifter, I would say with the new rules that we were putting in, I would say, to be honest, Tom, I haven't gone back and tracked it, but I bet it was probably where Dreamlifter before for a 30-day trade was probably in the like 4 to 5 trades. I would say it was probably at least double that.
Okay.
So you're talking basically, maybe a trade every other day.
Nice.
So,
All right. Well,
but anyway, so yeah, so it's not it's not something where you're going in and, you're not hooked to the chain to the computer module,
right.
So, but we are, but the one thing that I am seeing is that the right now, the putting on Dreamlifter at 80 DTE definitely can work, but the amount of money that's available is just so small that I basically compressed that to almost, I cut the time in half.
Right.
So basically from about 80 down to about 40.
Well, it makes sense because the farther out you go, the decay, the theta decay is really small compared to as you get close to expiration.
Yeah, what I had found was that, in the environment that we have right now and the adaptation that I've made in kind of general terms for people to hear is, we have these days where all of a sudden we'll get this thing that we're not used to seeing, is like all of a sudden you'll get this 50-point move, 30, 50, 70, 80, 100 point move, which if all of a sudden with Dreamlifter Original, if that just puts you way up, in kind of this area up here,
Mhm.
if you don't have, and what I've been seeing is that it kind of runs up, big move, and sits. And if your plan is basically to hope for, market regression, you just may not get it. And you could be sitting there for 30, 60 days and basically whatever the initial loss was, it just keeps getting worse.
Right.
So to be a little bit more on top of the market, a little bit more, I don't want to say aggressive in the sense of being able to utilize some of the thought processes in Flex and use some of those within Dreamlifters to some extent. And what I've seen is just that to be able to change it somewhat made a significant difference. Like I said, the back testing that I did, I went all the way back to the original date and retraded everything. And
It's a lot of back testing.
well, not so much. I mean, it was basically just through last July or the end of June of last year. So it wasn't really that bad. But if you want to know the results, you got to go do the work, right?
Right.
So I
Makes
did
sense.
that, and I saw what the results were and said, wow, this is a significant difference. So what I may be doing is talking with the group tomorrow and actually putting in the step to start, to kind of restart the Dreamlifter.
Okay.
But it will be with a different rule set for sure.
Right.
So anyway, so that's the quickie update there. And for anybody that wants to, always put the plug in. Yeah, anybody wants to, join in, feel free. And but hopefully soon we'll be able to show some better results, and we'll just take it from there.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks, Dave. Really appreciate it. Again,
And,
we're
and Tom, whenever you want to get together, just let me know, because I know we were supposed to get together last week. But so
oh yeah, I got all kind of out of my normal routine with Gabby going to the hospital
I know,
for a
I
night.
know. So anyway, so whenever I'm available, so whenever you want, just let me know.
Okay, I'll hit you offline on Skype and we'll pick a time.
All right, sounds good.
And just a quick reminder to everyone, I said this at the beginning of the meeting, but we've got 2 roundtables this week actually. Let me just pull it up here. this week. Tim Pearson is doing one on the boxcar. He's taking that service over from Amy. So Dan Harvey's going to be on with him. That's on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, which is kind of a not normal time that we use. But Tim's going to explain how his boxcar is a little bit different than Amy's. I think it's pretty close, but there are some changes, between traders. And then on Thursday at the normal time at 11 a.m. Eastern, you're gonna have Marco from Option Slam talking about his double eagle trade. He did that a few years ago, and I guess he's ginning it up again. So he's gonna let everybody know how it's doing, how it's done, and yeah, it's be good to hear from him. So just those reminders. If you don't catch them, I'm gonna have the recordings posted on in the library and also on YouTube. So if you want to get the YouTube subscription notices, you can just subscribe and hit the notification bell, and then YouTube will tell you when it's posted. If not with any of that, we'll just see you back again next week for Trading Group 1. So with that, everyone have a great week, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks.